Hello, everyone. Good morning from London. Good afternoon to those who are in Greece or Oman or any other parts of the world. My name is Marina Deligiani, and I'm the Training and Community Manager at Verimpact. We would like to welcome you today and thank you for attending our fourth webinar at Verimpact Academy Alumni Club. We started this series of webinars a few months ago as our alumni community is growing, and our aim is to connect all our alumni from different parts of the world and build a strong community. In case you have missed any of our previous webinars, you can still access them on our Verimpact YouTube channel. You can follow us on social media like LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook to be updated, as well as subscribing to the Verimpact newsletter on LinkedIn or through our website. If you have any questions or you need more information, you can contact us at info@veryimpact.com. Today we have with us our Managing Director, Ms. Christina Deligiani, who will be participating in the discussion.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here.
Hello, Christina. And today's webinar is about environmental governance and community engagement. And we are thrilled to have with us as a guest speaker, Ms. Debbie Richardson, a Verimpact alumna. Hello.
Hi, hello.
Thank you for coming. Ms. Debbie Richardson is a sustainability leader at Oman Sail with international experience in communication, stakeholder engagement, and change management, embedding sustainability initiatives aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and Oman 2040 vision into sailing and other sports, and gained Oman Sail to Sustainability Guinness World Records, which is amazing. She's a strong advocate against single-use plastic and holding a geography degree from Royal Holloway, University of London. Ms. Richardson's philosophy of leave only footprints on the beach guides her actions. And with no further ado, the floor is yours, Debbie. But may I ask you one question before you start your presentation?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you tell us a bit about your background? I mean, I've read you've studied geography, all your charity work, but how did you become involved in environmental governance and community engagement? What was the thing that everything?
I think for me, on a personal note, it was embedded into my childhood. So I come from a family that we were always very conscious and aware of our own waste, and we used to recycle from a very early age, and also lucky enough to have been brought up by the sea in Plymouth in Devon, and we would regularly go to the beach. As part of my upbringing, if there was any litter on the beach, we would remove it. And I was always just passionate about the environment and the impact that humans can have on the environment. And because I was so passionate, I ended up doing a geography degree, which I absolutely loved. And then I was very lucky to go and work with the Royal Geographical Society of the Institute of British Geographers, which was amazing. And I really enjoyed working with all the different research groups and understanding all of the different areas that, you know, whether it's human or physical geography. So my passion has always been about the environment, and it's just been a part of who I am.
Amazing. Thank you so much. You can start if you like your presentation.
Thank you. So hello everyone, I am here in Muscat in Al Mouj, and like it has been mentioned, I'm going to talk about ESG and community engagement. So I work at Oman Sail, and just to give you a little bit of context about who is Oman Sail and what we do. So Oman Sail has existed for the last 15 years, and we were set up by the late Majesty to reignite our maritime heritage. And we have sailing schools down in Saul, in Al Mouj Muscat, and also in Masana. And all of our sailing schools are actually accredited by World Sailing, which means that we deliver the highest and the best sailing, which is internationally recognised. We deliver our mission through several different programs, whether that is the community program where we offer, like, for instance, a one-off session to try sailing. We also have our youth program where we have a pathway to ensure that our Omani sailors can go all the way to performance and represent the Sultanate of Oman in international sailing events. We have our women's program. We also have our Sail Free program, which is for persons with disabilities with a specialised RS Venture Connect boat. We also participate in the Special Olympics. We also have our sailors representing the Sultanate of Oman in international events, and Oman Sail also attracts international events and hosts them here in Oman. And we've become so good at hosting international sailing events that we work very closely with the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Youth. We form part of local organising committees to deliver other sports events, including the World Athletics Race Walking Championships. In addition, we have Sea Oman, which is our commercial services, where we deliver daily snorkeling and diving and water sport activities from Al Mouj and also in Masana. Throughout what we deliver, whether it's our daily operations or hosting events, we can showcase how Oman Sail contributes to Oman Vision 2040 and also therefore the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Like I mentioned earlier, Oman Sail has been in existence for 15 years, and we try every year within previously our annual reports and now within our social economic impact reports to showcase exactly what our impact is, whether that's sailing and awards that we've achieved, whether it's through tourism and attracting inbound tourists, sports, people come, they participate in events, and then they enjoy the beautiful offering of Oman. And we promote with Visit Oman, going to the mountains, going to the desert, and making sure that there is that social and economic impact of hosting events. We also make sure that we invest in our people, and we deliver training and upskilling to ensure that we have the best people in the best roles and delivering the best service that we can. And of course, sustainability is embedded in our day-to-day operations and events. We work with multiple different stakeholders. We're proud to work with Environment Society of Oman. And like it was previously mentioned, I've led on 2 Guinness World Records for the Sultanate of Oman, for Oman Sail. And they have been embedded into the 2021 Youth World Sailing Championships, where we had 73 different nationalities collecting rubbish at one time, which was an amazing impact because all of the sailors got involved and it got international coverage through World Sailing. And also last year, we partnered up with a school called Cheltenham Muscat to have the largest plastic bottle sentence, which really highlighted the problem of single-use plastic, which is a global problem and also a national problem. So as it's been mentioned, we have all delivered and had delivered and been involved in environmental social governance training, and Oman Sail is actually under the Omran group. So Omran stands for the Oman Tourism Development Company. It's a government-led company, and I've been very proud to be part of task force that have been looking at what our social investments can be and how we can have more of an impact. We've had a number of sessions this year, and it's all about synergy. It's about working together across the different subsidiaries and thinking about and empowering our people about what impact that we can have. So I'm really excited to share today. I've given you an idea of what Oman Sail physically has delivered throughout the last 15 years, but actually how we're working more in synergy, more in collaboration with Omran. And we have several different exciting programs of work that we are going to implement later this year. I'm going to mention lots of different stakeholders today, and I encourage you all that if you have an interest to do your own research and find out more information. So as you heard earlier, single-use plastic is something that I'm very passionate about, trying to reduce or reuse or recycle. There's a fantastic company called Precious Plastic, and actually if you Google it, you will find out that all of the information is on there in regards to how you can set up your own business, including the toolkits, including best practices. And what we're going to do, thanks to Omran, we're going to have our own educational research lab here at Oman Sail in Al Noush. So it's going to have an opportunity to allow children and adults and tourists to come in to learn about the dangers of single-use plastic and to recycle and turn it into a product that they can keep and take away. So that's raising awareness, and most importantly, it's about protecting our oceans, because we all know that plastic ends up in our oceans. Can't do this without working in partnership, and we've formed a relationship with Recycling Services, that's an SME. They have the technical knowledge to help us to implement this programme of work, knowing the right equipment to use, being able to support us long term in regards to how we keep up with the maintenance, and to empower and train our people at Oman Sail to use the equipment. But we've also identified there's a number of different stakeholders, whether it's Al Noush, where we are actually based, and the community there, also World Sailing, because we are doubtful that there is another sailing federation internationally that is recycling plastic in this way. This is just one programme. We've also been focusing on what we can do to ensure that Oman is accessible for everyone, including those with mobility issues and wheelchair users. So at the moment, we don't have fully accessible beaches. So we are partnering up with a number of different stakeholders, and through the power of Omran, we're going to make sure that we have an accessible beach here in Muscat, in an area called Shati Al Kurum, where we will invest in the beach wheelchairs. So it allows those that have mobility issues or disabilities to access the beach, but also the sea. And also, in addition to that, we're going to look at the hotels. So Omran has 30 hotels across Oman, and we're going to make sure we do an audit to make sure that they're fully accessible for everyone. Now, this is really important because in 2026, the Sultanate of Oman will host the West Asian Para Games. So we need to make sure that our hotels are equipped and accessible for everyone and their families. But also, as part of our research, and we've identified multiple different stakeholders, we would also like to highlight that we would like to have a partnership with Purple Tuesday. So if you're not aware of Purple Tuesday, and it is Tuesday today, it's a global movement. Okay, it's the #1 brand for improving customer service for disabled people, and it's about empowering global accessibility. It's not just for hotels, it's for all types of different employers. And it actually has over 6,500 organisations signed up, and it's registered across 7 different countries. And it actually has even been implemented just in the neighbouring Abu Dhabi. But we're not stopping there. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep making a difference. So through our research, we also identified that there is a shortage in Oman of Omani female PADI dive instructors. In fact, there's actually only one registered with PADI. So we've come up with a programme which we're calling Zero to Hero, where we're going to target and recruit Omani females who are looking for employment, who have an interest in maritime, and we're going to train them to become PADI dive instructors. And we've identified that actually not just making sure that these individuals have the international accreditations for diving, but actually also empowering them to be a boat captain, because then this would potentially lead to the opportunity of not only employment with a number of different tour operators, but also it would allow them to potentially set up their own business. We've identified a number of different stakeholders again that we will work with, and we've even met with the regional director of PADI, who was visiting Muscat just last week. And he was really encouraged by this programme, and we have their support in regards to marketing and making sure that Oman is seen as a country that is really targeting and increasing the number of PADI dive instructors. Now, as part of all of the work that we've been doing and part of the proposals and research that we've looked into, we've also came up with a proposal that actually we've pitched to a very well-known hotel company here in Oman. We haven't quite finalised everything yet, so I won't name them. But actually, we identified that there is a requirement here for a fishing net recovery service. So we're going to, later this year, pilot this fishing net recovery service. We know that for whatever reasons, sometimes whether it's to do with bad weather, whether it's to do with problems with boats, the nets get disregarded. And we don't want to point fingers and we don't want to cause blame at the fishermen. This is their livelihood. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some form of SOS service where the fishermen, I'm going to target SEEB because we know there's over 1,700 fishermen registered and they have over 800 boats. We're going to have a service where they can contact Sea Oman and provide the PIN, and we will go and recover those nets from using our divers. If they're also on the beach, we will make sure that we remove those nets, because we've participated in multiple different beach cleans and we know that often there are nets and fishing equipment that are disregarded on the beach, and we want to make sure that it's safe and available for everyone to use. We've identified a number of different stakeholders for this, but most importantly is what we will do with the fishing nets afterwards. So we've completed some research and we found a fantastic company that's based in the UK called Waterhaul. They actually already do this. They recycle fishing nets and they turn them into designer sunglasses. A very successful business model. We've been speaking to them about best practices and about having some form of partnership, because wouldn't it be amazing if potentially they could come out to Oman and upskill Omanis to create their own SME where we could recycle sunglasses, recycle fishing nets and turn them into sunglasses or something similar. And at the moment, we have also reached out to an SME called Plasbin, who've said that they will currently store our fishing nets that we collect, and we're looking into how we can purchase the equipment to recycle them. So there's lots of information that I've given today in regards to community engagement, in regards to synergy, and it's really important. The key word there is synergy and collaboration and communication, because actually in regards to ESG, we can't do this unless we all work together. And also, most importantly, we need to measure our impact. We need to think about how we can physically showcase what we are achieving and how we are doing it. And we know we probably need to get a bit better at that in regards to our reporting. But we recognise that this is something that we really need to get really good at so that we can showcase our value. So if you are listening to this today and thinking, oh, wow, I'd like to find out more, I would be delighted to have any conversations with anyone that wants to A, find out more, or find out how they can get involved, or they have international best practice that they'd like to share. And I'd like to thank you very much for listening to the presentation today.
Wow, that was amazing, Debbie.
It's quite a lot of information.
A lot of information. Can I ask you though, so many proposals and projects running at the moment. So what do you think are the biggest challenges that you have encountered?
I think the biggest challenge is making sure that you take all of your key stakeholders on that journey. You have to have everybody bought in, and that includes people internally in regards to the physical operation.
Yeah.
So it's been really important. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been having internal meetings where we've been getting the teams together, whether that's the operational team, so the dive team, the facilities team, and actually bringing them together and thinking about how we're going to deliver this. So if you think about the fishing net proposal, it's fantastic that we're going to collect these fishing nets, but actually we have to transport them. We then have to transport them to the warehouse. And actually, we need a team to do that. And it's not exactly an attractive job to do. But actually, if they know the value of it and they understand why we're doing it and the impact, I think that's key. And also the opportunity for upskilling and training and learning a different, if you think about the recycling lab, we're going to be upskilling and training people in regards to recycling plastic. And we see that very much as a train-the-trainer program, utilising recycling services and their engineering background. So I'm hoping that because it's different, it's new, they can see the impact that they will engage.
Dina, do you have any questions?
Of course, I just love how you have the big congratulations on the presentations. I've been to Oman Sail many times, and we've had conversations together. We've also had lots of training together. So you've done a lot of stakeholder mapping, and I love how you try to engage your stakeholders, both internal and external. I love how you promote accessibility in Oman, both in the Umran hotels and venues and in Oman Sail. Can you talk a little bit about accessibility issues? Because this is part of the social impact that you have, and it's also part of diversity, inclusion. So how do you approach accessibility, and why? Because I know you're a very passionate advocate about that.
I am, and I think part of that is because when I worked in the UK, I worked for a company called Remploy, and it used to help individuals who have a disability get into work. And we used to work with employers and with the government in regards to access to work programs. And I think it's about knowledge sharing of that information that I've had, and sharing that here in Oman, because, if you think about disability, a lot of people would think about all the barriers that are there, and actually those barriers can actually be broken down. And I honestly feel that more communications need to happen in regards to case studies, potentially internationally, that can be brought to showcase actually that when you break down these barriers, then you can make that difference. And part of the accessibility audits. Now, I've done accessibility audits back in my old days, my old jobs. And actually, I think the first thing is actually getting, when we have a consultant here, to do exercises with staff. So whether that is having a blindfold on and then realizing what it's like to have a problem with your sight and not being able to see and being able to navigate, whether that's actually sitting in a physical wheelchair and realizing the power that you need to actually, and the difficulties to maneuver around. I honestly feel that the accessibility audits, it just won't benefit persons with disabilities. It will also people with mobility issues, or parents with pushchairs. And actually, I think what will happen is through the accessibility audits within the Umran hotels, it will then empower change at the very start within the actual design of a hotel. And there's lots of brilliant, amazing case studies out there where actually accessibility is embedded into the physical design, which then takes away all the barriers that you don't need.
I know that there is a fully accessible hotel in the Umran group. I think it was Melia, and this is something that you led in the past. Am I wrong or am I right? It was, I think it was Melia.
I haven't been involved in that, but I will say that within the Oman group, now that we have done our ESG training, there has been so much more synergy and so much more understanding about all the programs and all the work that we do. And I think, like I ended my presentation, it's about collaboration and it's about measuring that impact, but it's also about sharing it. I have learned so much from my Umran colleagues about what they're doing and how they're making a difference. And I really think that we should shout out more because it's incredible.
That is so true. And accessibility issues are so important when we talk about ESG. It's the social, but it's also a governance issue, because when we think about ESG criteria, this is not a bottom-up approach, but it's a down approach. So it's the higher management that has to make decisions, and then these decisions on ESG, on accessibility, on diversity trickle down to all operations of an organization. And I'm really glad to hear that all the ESG trainings that we did with Omran, both in person and online, have an impact in the operations of the hotels and venues, because sustainability, some people think that sustainability is only the environmental part, but the social and governance part are of equal importance, and actually they're much more easier to make. It's a transformation, but it's a transformation that includes people, and this is much more impactful and much more tangible in many senses. So how about measurements? In ESG, if you don't measure things, if you don't have metrics, if you don't measure your impact, you cannot drive change, but you cannot make changes, but you cannot actually show what you've been doing. So how do you approach that at Oman Sail? You talked a little bit about it, but can you give us a little more of a hint?
Yes, so it's a bit boring. It's a lot of admin work. And sometimes here at Oman Sail, like in any organisation, we talk about admin and everybody rolls their eyes, especially as we're a sailing organisation, and our people, majority of them, want to be out on the water and enjoying sailing or water sport activities. But actually, we've been embedding best practices, so making sure that we're reporting. So whether that's at our sailing schools, and actually our sailing school manager, Zayed, is actually amazing. He has everything captured, and you go down to visit him and he's got this folder and everything's there, and he can tell you about all the youth and what they've been doing and their hours of training. And it is just embedding those practices of making sure that you capture. So if it's to do with sailing, how many children have come every day, what level they're at, how many medals they've got. So like, whether it's an employee, as an employee, I have my HR folder with, with all my documentation in there. It's each sailor having that. And also when we deliver an event, we've got really good with our events team will document everything. And our procurement team's got really good at this as well. So we have embedded within our procurement process how we will do an environmental assessment for when we're going out. Now, that's more about upskilling and training our SMEs that we work with in regards to being thinking about, reducing plastic within the product that we might be procuring. But it's actually about collecting all of this data, and we predominantly need to get better at doing that digitally to reduce the admin work. But I think there is an excitement at the end of the year when we publish our social economic impact report. And sometimes there might be some areas that are shown much higher than others, because we're taking still staff on a journey to say, okay, we've shouted out about this department, what we've done here. You equally have done an amazing impact, but you need to make sure that you are collecting your data and that we are feeding that in. So like, for instance, for World Refill Day, there's a simple calculation that you can do, because we order our 5-gallon water dispenser. We have a water dispenser and our 5-gallon water. We can do a simple calculation to understand how many single-use plastic bottles for the 500 millilitres that we've saved. So the procurement team know that I'm going to ask annually how many have we ordered, then we can do that calculation and we can shout out, we've saved X amount of single-use plastic bottles. We've also ordered X amount of reusable bottles that we've issued within our events. And then they can see and showcase the difference that we've made.
Wow, data collection is important, and it's also important to share best practices and what you've done with no single plastic and no single use plastic bottles, and how you use the gallon big bottles at events is very important, along with green procurement. Yesterday I was at an event on the ocean, and they did not have any single-use plastic. And they also had a vegetarian menu, which was very important. Yeah. No fish, no meat. And this all goes back to procurement, to green procurement, and training people that work in those departments, because sometimes we think that sustainability or ESG is the work and the task of just one person, but you should have ambassadors, focal points in each and every department. When they make decisions, they can think about sustainability issues and how to reduce that. Any other best practice that you can share with us for events and venues? I'm sure you have many, and we've talked about that in the past so many times.
Well, I always like to do like a sustainability plan. And my plan can be a little bit too much information. Some of my colleagues do laugh that Debbie does do a lot of detail. So we can do this amazing implementation plan, and this is what we're going to do. But actually, as we will all know, it all comes down to money and budget. So we have lots of these ideas, but then we need to make sure that we can fit it in within the budget of delivering an event. So sometimes we have to scale down what we're going to do. But also we're quite creative here at Oman Sail. We make sure, like, for instance, when I talked about our water, sometimes for our events, we'll have a value in kind deal. So in regards to a water supplier like Tanuf will be our water sponsor, we will brand them. Their branding will be everywhere, and we will make sure that they have their worth and we'll have the worth of the water. So that's one way of doing it. But we very much try to work in this collaboration with everyone to make sure that we are having the largest impact. So like, for instance, we work with the Environment Society of Oman. Again, we try to, like for instance, at the Hockey Fives event, we try to collect money for a programme for endangered eagles here. And actually it didn't quite work. So sometimes you've got to have that patience that you're going to try things, and if sometimes it won't work and you need to evaluate why. You need to capture your lessons learned, and then you need to embed that in future events.
So yes, learning and feedback from events into future events, that's so important, and branding and collaborating with companies when you plan events. This is so important. I liked what you said about having a sustainability plan for each event. I know it's a lot of work, and I know it's at the end it pays off. But being frugal is also a nice way to go about things. What I've seen recently in events is no printed material, no brochures, no programs. Everything is digital. Of course, digital has its own carbon emissions that we don't really look into, but it kind of offsets all the printing and all the waste that has been produced in big events and in big venues. And if you could share with us like a forecast, any emerging trends in environmental governance and in community engagement when we talk about ESG? Any trends, anything that you see that is very important in the discussion and in the discourse that we have?
I think actually it comes back to our discussion about data. So we have a number of different proposals that we've been going out to stakeholders here for sponsorship. So Oman team have a great coral reef and restoration programme that we've been working on for the last 2 years, trying to find sponsorship for. Now, with the coral reef and restoration programme, you know, the actually growing coral will take 6 months. And so we've really kind of struggled to get the buy-in and the sponsorship, because a lot of corporate companies, because they want their ESG reports annually to have high metrics and high data and high outputs, it's actually thinking about how we can tweak it and do it a little bit different. So we've actually been working on looking at, we've got this great coral reef restoration programme. We've identified all the things that we'd like to do. We've identified all of the stakeholders. And actually what the team is doing now is they're breaking down sections of it so that we can go out to different sponsors. And if they've got a smaller pot of sponsorship or ESG funding, then we say that we would just like to ring fence for this particular area of what we would like to do so that we can get the project started. And so at the end of the year, we can report on our impact, what we're doing, and then give the client the opportunity to further invest. And we're hoping that what we would have achieved with that small amount of money will be enough to secure further funding for it to continue.
Wow, coral reefs are so important, as is seagrass, and that's a good approach to do, especially when there are ESG budgets within big corporates. And data collection is so important. We see it not only as part of the ESG report, but also as part of reaching out to sponsors or reaching out to banks for loans. It's great to have. It's easy to collect once you have a system. And once you have trained your personnel in data collection. And are there any readings, any resources that you can share with us? Anything that has inspired you in your sustainability journey so far?
I think probably my engagement, number one, with World Sailing. So World Sailing have their own sustainability plan, and actually they've only just launched, I think it was just over the weekend for World Oceans Day, they're going to do an annual sustainability plan. So it's really worth reading, and there's lots of transferable information and data that you can get from there. You don't have to be in this sailing arena, but actually how they've presented that, it's very clear, it's concise, and you can transfer it. I think because I've been lucky enough to do sustainability plans for other international events, again, I would promote World Athletics. They've had a huge focus on sustainability, and I think I've been fortunate enough to speak to other sustainability leaders within international sailing corporations that I've been able to capture best practice. And I might not have been able to implement it all, but there's loads of scope there and opportunities to be able to embed that with the correct funding.
This is very important, and sometimes going to big organizations in your field or even competitors and see what they're doing, their sustainability planning or the sustainability ESG reporting is also important. For me, if you ask me for like a sustainability reading that is I think is very important, I would say The Ministry of the Future, which is a novel taking place in India in extreme heat, and it's a novel which is not that futuristic anymore. It shows what will happen if we don't have sustainability and ESG practices in place. Marina, do you have any question for Debbie, or does anyone have any question for Debbie?
You've talked about all the data, all the trainings, but really, how easy is it for a community to start being engaged if they don't have all these means? What would you suggest? What would you advise them to do? I'm talking about smaller communities, or even an individual. How would you advise someone? Where can we start? Because with all this information nowadays, it's a bit confusing and overwhelming. And
no, absolutely it is. And I actually think in this digital age as well, there's so much research out there. There's so many, if you're on different social media platforms and you're following different organizations, there's so much information. There's not enough hours in the day to read it all. I would say to focus on what you're passionate about. For me, it's single-use plastic and reducing that. So I've done research here in Oman and internationally, and trying to embed that best practice. Something that's completely free is communicating and talking to people, and you can't underestimate stakeholder engagement. Making that time to have a conversation and conversations, and making sure that you take people on a journey. I think in regards to the journey that I've been on with Oman and our social investment policy, and there's been a huge piece of work that we've all been very dedicated to get these proposals done and approved, and we couldn't have done that if we weren't a team. And we've all been juggling our day-to-day tasks as well, so you have to be passionate enough to put in those extra hours. Not going to lie, my husband and daughter are a little bit annoyed when I come home and log back on. But also, I'm very lucky that my daughter goes to an IB curriculum school, ABA, and I think it's absolutely amazing. She's only 12. She will quote the United Nations SDGs, and that is really powerful stuff. And I would say to people here in Oman, obviously we have Vision 2040, which is all interconnected with the United Nations SDGs. And there's lots of communications that go out and reports. You don't have to read 60-page documents. You might just read through it and just take whatever you take from that. You take what you want and you leave the rest. But if you're passionate about the environment and you're passionate about making sure that we live in an inclusive society, and you know what's really important from the work that we've done in regards to disability and accessibility is that reports will show that it's not just disabled people that will audit when they go to a shop or a hotel. It's their family members, it's their friends. And if you are showcasing that your hotel or shop is fully accessible, they will feed that back, they will return. And I think it's really important that we talk about working and living in an inclusive community, and it's about sharing that information and that communication. So if you don't have communication, you're not going to be able to build on that and make a difference.
Exactly. Leave no one behind. Just footprints.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Great.
Do we have any questions from
I don't see
audience?
any questions from the audience, so we can close off this meeting.
Well, thank you very, very much. It was so interesting to hear your presentation. For the attendees, this will be recorded and will be uploaded on our Verimpact YouTube channel, so you can go back and read again, listen again to all this information. I would like to thank you. It was so nice to meet you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Debbie.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me. Thank you guys for listening. Shukran and ma salama.
Shukran, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.